okay for a process to break, but it's not okay for you to not put anything out in the market. So if you're waiting to perfect your product, you can keep waiting for your entire life, but it's okay to put out a low resolution prototype of your a low res feature, which is not baked. Don't bake it fully. I'm remembering a very great word from the professor. He said that when you take something to someone which is totally done, you get judgment. When you take something which is still in the making, you get advice.
Our featured guest today is a founder who pursues and seizes opportunity, operating on the belief that the future is great and we are in it. An MIT bootcamp alumnus and a senior program manager at Just Eat Takeaway, Anchala is on the verge of launching her own startup, Multiply, to help the creator economy multiply their influence. Anchala, it's a great pleasure to have you back as our featured guest today. Thank you so much for coming back to share this leg of your journey with us.
Totally happy to be here. Yes, as you just said, we actually launched Multiply last year, almost the same day. So it's a very special day to be here. Been 1 year of loads of experience, and I'm glad that we're here and happy to share it with all of you.
Wonderful. I know it has been, a little over a year since our other interview, and you've been working so hard on Multiply during that time. Can you kind of give us an update on the project? I think when we last spoke, you were bringing in some technical expertise, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, so I think we last spoke in 2023, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in September. At that point, the app was still getting developed, and I didn't have a co-founder or a technical co-founder as per se. But I think since then, things have changed tremendously. So Jan 2023, we went live on iOS and Android in over 65 countries. And I think within 7 months, we hit 15,000, 14,000, somewhere around the line, downloads. So most of our downloads come from India, but that's not what I want to talk about. I think what has happened since then is that not only were we able to launch the product, because that's also like a leap of faith. You go ahead and put it out in the market and you want people to use it, but also we were able to actually get into the hands of customers. And for any tech founder, I think that's really important, because if people are not using your product, you cannot get feedback. And as they say, the market is the true determiner of where the product will be. So we've been lucky since we've spoken the last time. I have a co-founder who himself is a head of engineering in a company I cannot name right now, but it'll come out in a few months once we have him full time. And not only that, I think whenever the product goes out to the market, your role also evolves. So before the product was in the market, I was only working with the tech team or doing the design, because I've also designed the app. So there was like a mix of designing, logic building, and working with the team. But I think once the product hits the market, you first go through a downfall, because suddenly all your fears are right in front of you. You're like, oh my God, are people going to use the product? And how am I going to onboard, at scale? Because sitting here, I was also working. Last year, I was also working. I had a full-time day job. So the idea was that, okay, I'm trying to manage these multiple things. One, will I be able to do so? Two, will I be able to onboard people at scale? And three, will they even like it? So no, a lot has happened. And as we'll go through the next 1 hour, I'll probably try and touch base on a lot of different aspects.
That's amazing. It sounds like it really ramped up quickly there, which is awesome to hear. And congratulations. Sounds like it's been pretty successful launching the app, and you've had a great success in getting users on it and downloads. So that's really amazing to hear. You touched on this a bit, and the question I have that we often ask here is thinking about how do we understand the right team to bring into place? And you kind of started to touch on that of, well, I had to find a technical partner, but also once it launched, my role shift. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about the team that you had at that point as you were starting to launch the app, finding the technical team, co-founder, and then after launch, how did that shift? How did that change? What roles did you see yourself playing versus what roles did you see being able to delegate to somebody else?
Oh, wow. That's a very, very interesting question. So I'll start with finding the right people. How do you find the right people? I always believe that finding the right people is hard. And probably that's why you have this question. The way it worked for me, I'll start with even having the agency. Like when we went ahead and we decided that because I cannot code. So I definitely needed either a co-founder who would code it by himself or an agency. But we took the agency route because even if I wanted to have like an engineer here in Amsterdam, I didn't have that much money. So the idea was, okay, how can we make this work? I also not going bankrupt. So I think when I was looking at different agencies, there is one thing called logic, but there's something called as instinct. And I think in my case, well, yes, we spoke with 3 different agencies, someone in Egypt, someone in Poland, and then one in India. And we were constantly talking to them about the same things. And I think the instinct came in between that made me make the decision of onboarding that one agency. So that's about the agency. So I'm going to move to the actual person who's like Dima Karpov. He lives in Israel. He's the head of engineering for a company. And the only way I got to know about him, now I think it's going to come out, is because we were working for the same company. The company I was working with, he was heading the engineering team. And I think I only met him once or twice. But it's just that the collaboration which we had in the past gives you some kind of trust that this person, if I bring him or her on board, can actually see the vision or can work with the vision I have. And I think every time you're looking for anyone to bring on board, it's extremely important, one, to have complementary skills. Don't bring someone who's just like you. You're both going to break your heads because, yeah, literally, like if you're both have the same skill sets, you probably will make it very easy for yourself because the other person is never going to come up and say that you're wrong and I don't think what you're doing is correct. So I think that's what I saw in him. That one, of course, he was from the engineering department, and I really needed someone who can give me some guidance from the technical side of view. But two, I think he brought this complementary skill set wherein if I bring this big vision thinking and weird ideas to the table, he can really filter it out. And he can really go granular into what I'm trying to do. And then shape and help us navigate in the future. So sum it up, I think complementary skill sets, a bit of instinct and collaboration. Work with them for some time. Don't say yes on the first day. Whoever I've worked with, even I'm going to tell like who I worked after we came online, like after we went live, always do a test run even if you've worked in the past. And I think that worked with me and Dima in an amazing manner because we started working without any commitment that, oh, I want this much equity. Oh, I want this much that. No, these are discussions for later. First, you start working with each other. B, are you even able to progress with each conversation? What is the other person trying to bring out in you? And I think over the period of time, you kind of know that, okay, this is going to work, or things will just fizzle out. That is also a very good way to understand that if you're trying to progress and there is no progression, probably that's your answer, that it's not going to work out. So in my case, it worked pretty well. The tech team we went with was able to deliver. So that was a good thing. The co-founder, I went and told him, like it was not even I asked him. I literally told him that I'm going to raise funds and I want to see you in the team. And he just said sure. So the trust is also important somewhere down the line. And I think just to take it up the notch, you said that how my role changed before the product was live and after the product was live. I think it was a major change to start with because before, as I said, I was just doing designing. I was working with the tech team to kind of convey what we're doing, what features, because tech team, of course, will have loads of questions with processes, the backend and all of that. But I think as the product went live, I had so many different roles to fill in. So I was also for example, sales. And here in tech world, sales doesn't really mean that you start selling something because we didn't really have a payment system integrated. But it was really going out, and it's a mix of marketing where you start telling that there is a new baby out in the world, and because nobody knows us, right? Like we can keep on, like I can build an Eiffel Tower, and if I don't go out and tell it to the world and shout it from the top of it that we are here, Nobody's going to know that. So it was actually a mix of marketing, going out, sales, because you should be continuously selling. Yeah, you need to be your biggest cheerleader. Partnerships, which also needs a different skill set, because you need to start thinking from the side of what the other person wants from this collaboration. Social media, of course, because you don't have enough money to actually have loads of interns. Animation, finance, because now every decision you make is going to cost you money. If you're sponsoring an event, that's going to cost you money, but you cannot just throw money out because you're very early on. So you need to think about, what is the ROI? Are we even getting something? And sometimes, again, logic doesn't work, but I think instinct is your very good partner, and you should try and have that internal calling, and it'll guide you somewhere down the line.
Oh, that's a good one too. Instinct is a good partner. I really appreciate what you said about taking your co-founder for a test drive. Maybe I shouldn't have taken that quite so, literally, but like that's such an important thing to make sure that you really do have, you're going to be spending hours and hours with this person, and you are, handing them the keys to your car, your baby. You really do want to make sure that you have that trusting relationship. And I love how thoughtful you were about that. And I mean, that tells me that you're going to experience a lot of success in the future because you were so thoughtful about that step. Unfortunately, we do hear stories. We all hear them, how people retroactively really wish that they had been that thoughtful and they just hired for the skills, and they didn't really get that fit, because you're creating your company's culture, right? Whether you have 2 people, 20 or 200. So
Values is also something which really matters. So whoever you bring into the team really needs to you need to have some alignment with respect to how you see your values. And if it's not there, I mean, think about it. The first few hires are really the foundation of the company, because if I start fighting with him every day and we start taking things very personally, we're never going to grow. So it's really important to have that trust that whatever you're saying, it's not personal. It's for the betterment of the product which we are taking to the market. And I think I've just been lucky. I'm definitely very grateful, because it's very important to have someone to soundboard your ideas with. Otherwise, founders like me, and I think I've seen this with other people as well. It's just that we want to do a lot every day. Every day is an iteration for us, but then you need someone to calm you down. So it's a mix of fire, but also a bit of calm. And I think that's very important, to just completely focus on skill sets, complementary skill sets. Otherwise, you're gonna burn everything down together.
well, that was well said, a combination of fire and calm. And I'm very glad that you're growing and nothing is near burning. I want to just take a moment to pass to another community member that has a question for you. Giovanni, do you have audio?
Hi, Ankara. Let me congratulate with you. Let me ask a quick question. Can you share a success story or a milestone that made you feel your efforts were paying off?
Yeah, sure. I love the question. I have a great story for you. So when we went live, it was tomorrow, January 12th. Initially, the idea was to go to creators and bring them on board, because the whole thing was that creators need more connection directly with their end fan. Like, creators need more direct connection with their fans, and they should be the first one to come and test the platform. I kept on trying to connect with influencers sitting in this flat of mine. Very soon, I realized that if I'm going to do this, I might take another 3-4 years to really have even 100 people on board. So there was a dip in motivation, fear which came up that, are we really doing the right thing? Do I have more, am I even left with more motivation? Things like that, so you start questioning yourself. Then basically a call came in from the inside, which made me realize that probably I need to shift the way I am bringing the product to the market. Probably what I think is incorrect, or maybe they might not be the first customers or users to test the product. Maybe there is something else hidden here which I can leverage and actually, get some testing on the product. So that's where a thought came to my mind, and I went to my alumni college where I did economics from. It's in India, in Delhi NCR. And I went to them and I told them that, here is the product. I think I want to test it with creators, but I'm not able to do that because it's not scalable and it's one-on-one. And this way, I will never be able to get feedback. I don't know which features are working out, what to iterate. They took the product, and there was an event which was happening on the 29th of February. I call it the leap of faith. So on the 29th of February, and it was almost 1.5 months after the product was live. So you can think how in my heart, I was like, oh my God, I have no idea what's happening. But on the 29th of February, there was a college fest, and it was an event. Least did I realize that I can actually take the same tech, it can be used by event organizers. And that was the day. That was a day I still remember. We had 70 users until 29th of February. And by June and July, we hit 14,000 users. And that was all driven through this events because they were so quick to adapt the product. They were students, so they are always looking for new ways to, experiment. They are not like risk averse or they're very flexible. So I think that shift from creators and not being able to onboard at scale to actually taking the same tech, going to event organizers and realizing that we actually fit in there as well. Then, it was just from one college to another college to third college. And we had tie-ups with most premium institutes in Delhi NCR. And they were happy. I, of course, was super happy. And I think that was a time, May endish in June, wherein I thought that, okay, we are doing something which people are downloading, and Google Analytics is showing a great, I'm loving what I'm seeing right now. And that kind of also helped us with a lot of partnerships, because I think to get feedback, you really need to talk to these people who are using your app, and they will tell you something you don't even know because they're also out in the market. Yeah, that was when I thought that we are probably in the right direction.
That's amazing. I love that you took the opportunity to analyze what was working and what wasn't and say, maybe this isn't the right audience, and find another audience that happened to be the correct one, right? And so it speaks to being able to take the time to analyze the work you're doing, reevaluate and pivot. So that's amazing. With that being said, it sounds like you went from, you said several hundred downloads
70?
to several
Yeah,
thousand,
70.
tens of thousands. Yeah, in what, 2 months?
No, it took us roughly 6 to 7 months to reach
Oh, 6
there.
7 months. Okay. With that being said, what challenges do you face as you scaled that quickly, right? I mean, your product has to be pretty well fleshed out at that point. Bugs have to be fixed. So, what sort of challenges did arise as you
You
were working through that? You'd assume, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you. I was recently at Stanford, and the professor said a very good thing about scaling. He said that scaling is like when your product is new, it's like you're cooking omelet for one person, which kind of makes sense because, this many ingredients and all that. But as you scale, you're cooking for hundreds and thousands of people. And the process which you used before might not work because now people want different salt, like a different level of salt and so on. So it becomes harder as you scale. But if I think about my experience, I think the first thing which I really I really thought that, oh my God, how it's going to happen is that onboarding users. Initially, when you're new to the market, nobody wants to talk to you. Let's just be honest, because they're like, yeah, there are so many products. Why should we talk to you, or why should we listen to you? That was one thing which I felt with creators. So that was one challenge that I was looking to scale in bulk, wherein this problem of me really trying to talk to people one-on-one, it was just a lot of friction for me. And I really thought in my head that, honestly, I love what I'm doing, but I don't have that much time that I'm going to go to one-on-one person and explain what I'm trying to do. And this is not going to work out. So that was one. You also asked about testing and bugs. Well, I would say that I started feeling that I'm going to become Jesus by the end of this process, because testing, it makes you go crazy. I wouldn't lie, because there is so much which is happening on your app that as a founder, you can test it. You can test it twice, thrice, but there will still be someone telling you, there'll still be someone will come and tell you, you know what, this is not working right. You'll be like, oh my God, how do you go about it? But then again, I think the only way to actually overcome this challenge is just to keep on iterating, just keep going, and you'll find your pace somewhere down the line. Even the people, I mean, initially when you're working with the tech team, they also don't understand the way you work. So there's a bit of friction wherein they don't know how much they can reach out to you. You also are testing, it's like testing the waters. How upfront can you be with them? So yeah, initially, I mean, before the product was live, I felt that God is testing my patience, not like I'm not testing the app. So that's there. But here's the thing, beauty of being agile and the beauty of having a tech product, which is not like a car, is that you can iterate, right? It's not like, and this is also like injected in founders, and like even I learned it very recently from Stanford, is that it's okay for a process to break, but it's not okay for you to not put anything out in the market. So if you're waiting to perfect your product, you can keep waiting for your entire life, but it's okay to put out a low resolution prototype of your a low res feature, which is not baked. Don't bake it fully. And I'm remembering a very great word from the professor. His name was Scott. He said that when you take something to someone which is totally done, you get judgment. When you take something which is still in the making, you get advice. And early on, all you need is advice. Because the minute you get judgment, you're going to feel bad, because now you have to go and you have to change the entire thing, what you've done. So yeah, I think for me, when I was going through these challenges, I was like, you know what, it's okay if I'm having like bugs which are like really bugging me so much, or if I'm not able to scale, you'll find your way. But yeah, like apart from this, I think I did face some challenges initially with my co-founder as well. I wouldn't lie, because I think the way technical people see the world is a bit different. And the way other side, like the sales side of the people who are really the founders, they see the world. They really think that we can build a rocket in a night and we can fly to Mars tomorrow. I wouldn't lie. And I would definitely love to hear it from other founders as well. So that was also a challenge to kind of find a middle ground as to how much of big vision thinking I need to do, and how much of filtering he needs to, how much no can he also say? Because he also needs to come up from saying no all the time and understanding, okay, why is she saying what she's saying? And even when we were scaling, you also need to gain trust of your team members, because that there is one thing that you have a product out in the market, but if you're not able to scale and get users, they're like, will she be able to do it? Like, where are we going? So there was a period of time wherein we're like, okay, we're getting users, but the kind of content or the kind of engagement we need, it's not there. So it was, as a founder, it was my duty to actually go back and tell them that, you know what, it's okay. We will get there. Not everything which has to happen today. So there's a bit of trust building. I think everybody will come through that moment wherein you will also, you and your co-founder will also have a conversation that, do we know where this is going? Will we be able to take it where we want it to go? So yeah, that was just a couple of things. And I think eventually, I remember initially when we were partnering for all these events and all, when you're new to the market, you don't know that you can actually create new rules. But when you start talking to more and more people and you do more and more partnerships, you kind of start understanding that you have a lot of authority and you can actually create new rules and you can tell people what they should be doing rather than they telling you what you should be doing. And it becomes like a collaborative effort, and that you will only come across it when it's a part of the process. So yeah, there were, I think, a couple of major challenges, but then in short, the whole process is full of challenges, but that's what, like, we cannot get demotivated, and you just need to get up and start working again.
Well, I really appreciate that you shared, not just the scaling challenges like structurally too, but interpersonally, because, as you've articulated so well, those roadblocks can be more substantial sometimes if you can't find a way to kind of communicate and get past some of the communication issues that you encountered. Hi there. If you're enjoying this podcast, would you mind leaving us a review, a like, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform? Thanks so much. That really helps our reach. The The Founders Voyage podcast is now proudly sponsored by VidOps. Kane at VidOps has been taking care of our editing since early 2024. He works efficiently, and I'm sure you'll agree that he does a great job. Thank you to VidOps for helping bring this podcast to life. If you want the same great support we're getting for your podcast, or you need help with video, photography, or animation, you can get 10% off at vidops.io using our referral code VOYAGE. That's vidops.io, referral code VOYAGE. Now back to the show. You're kind of almost transitioning me to it, but how do you feel like you have found the right balance of work and family life and all the other things that you're passionate about? There is no right or wrong answer. And as we discussed offline, like this is an ever evolving thing, right?
I have a very strong opinion around it, and I think nobody's going to like it, but I'm still going to say what I think. I don't think for founders, there is any work-life balance. If you're looking for work-life balance, go and do a job, like literally. And I've been very honest to other people as well, because here is the thing. When you are trying to build something, it's really coming from the inside and it doesn't leave you. Like there was a point in time wherein I almost thought of shutting down Multiply. This was way back early 2022. But the thing that it keeps coming back to you is there's a reason for it. And with me, I think last year, I have worked first at my day job and the whole night probably for Multiply, 2 hours of sleep, and then you go to the office. I'm not proud of it. Again, I would also say that I'm not proud of going crazy and like working every night like this, but it's just the need of the hour. You cannot run away from it. When I did have some time before we went to all these events, I was able to like rest a bit, I wouldn't lie. But when we started going to these events, people who you are collaborating with, they will throw 1,000 questions at you every day. And there is a thing that founders always need to be right, because if you say, again, all your decisions have a cost. So it's not that a lot of questions are coming your way, but it's the pressure of being right, or right in the way that whatever you do actually gets you something. You don't think about balance there. Think about is getting the work done, moving to the next thing, and ensuring that what you're doing is of some value. So I think it's a very internal narrative which you tell yourself that you can go and sleep, but would you be happier if you will send that email with that 5-year projection tonight? Or would you be happier getting up tomorrow and saying, oh, sorry, I couldn't do it? So I mean, for me, that internal narrative was so strong that I am not going to get up and be sorry about something which I could have done. And I didn't do it only because I was a bit lazy. That's not something we want to do. And I think even today, there are times wherein there's deadline after deadline. Every week you have a deadline. So you cannot really think about, let's travel. Like I haven't traveled in the last 1.5 years because travel kind of takes the momentum away. And then you're first, when you're going, you're thinking about it, then you're coming back and you're trying to rest. So there is no work-life balance. But here's the thing. I think you get smarter doing the things which then start saving you time. And it also comes with a bit of delegation. And as a founder, I felt the challenge of delegation because you don't trust people very easily, especially new people who come and join you on board. You feel that maybe I can just do it rather than me trying to explain it to this person. I'm just going to do it in 5-10 minutes. Nothing is done in 5-10 minutes. You spend a lot of time doing it. So it's like you're kind of stuck in this vicious circle wherein you think you should not delegate and try and do stuff. But then comes a day wherein you realize that you need to empower the people who are working with you. And that's the only way you can save some time. And I think that's what got me some balance. I wouldn't say that I'm still able to have like a good night's sleep and things like that. That's still not there. But I would say that over the period of time, iteration gives you that authority and also that, you become better at what you're doing. So maybe something which used to take me, let's say 5-year projections, if last year they took me like maybe 2 to 3 days to actually put something on the paper, today it takes me roughly 15 to 20 minutes because you've just done it so many times that you just know that, okay, this is what it is. So don't look for work-life balance if you are starting the journey of becoming an entrepreneur, but trust me, your work gives you so much energy that you don't feel that, oh my God, I've done so much, because it's like a two-way exchange, that if you are putting the energy out there, your work, you just feel so happy. I never feel bad about being awake till 6 a.m. and then getting up again at 8, because that feeling of that fulfilling feeling which you get after your work is done, I think nothing in the world can give you that. And you start weaving in your hobbies somewhere inside what you do. So yeah, your hobbies kind of become a part of your work.
That's great. So noted, no work-life balance. Got it.
Not for a couple of years. Like, I mean, you'll just enjoy it as hard as
I'm
yours.
joking. No, it sounds like and hopefully I'm correct in saying this, you found some way to find a balance, right? You're still working a lot, it sounds like, but you found a balance that works for you.
Exactly. True.
That's great. And it also sounds like from what you were saying is that you stay motivated by the work you're doing, which also keeps you engaged and moving forward and motivating. And so I think that's a great way to approach it, right? So you may have those stressful nights, but at least you are enjoying what you're doing and that's driving you, as well as finding that balance that you can. With that being said, what's next for Multiply? Where do you see it going in the next few years as you're ignoring work-life balance and just pushing forward?
That's a great question. So I think when we kind of hit a substantial amount of downloads, the next thing for us to kind of understand, what do people want? It's just me and my co-founder sitting and trying to bring something, which is just two people's point of view. But it's really important to understand what are the people who are using your product really want. So we did a lot of user interviews, and we realized that what we have is good. However, there is a long way to go. I think where we are turning towards is bringing a platform to the market which is community driven. So if I talk about Instagram, or if I talk about Facebook or LinkedIn, they are content driven platforms. So the content drives more awareness, and that's the way to get visibility and grow your audience. But Multiply is a bit different in that case. Yes, there is content, but we are building it with keeping the community in the mind. And when we say community in the mind, what I mean is that communities are driven by engagement. So if there is no engagement, you wouldn't foster loyalty. And the only way to drive revenue is to foster loyalty from your members. That's what we are bringing out in the world, is that a platform which actually empowers all these community builders with not just AI-powered insights, but also the tools to engage better with your audiences and learn more about them. For example, I feel that insights are really important, and a lot of platforms are not focusing on it. Maybe they are, but the way they are built, they cannot provide it at a community level, because they are more, again, content driven. You post a photo and then you'll show how many people have viewed it. Yeah, okay, fine. But like, what about it? Like, I want to know more. Where are my customers? Is there a festival coming in? Can I engage with them in some way? So I think that's the power of AI, which I want to bring in to actually help community builders to come up with content and let them actually do the real engagement. So I think supporting the community builders is that one thing which we'll completely differ in, because no other platform, at least right now, I don't see that happening. And then along with that, in year 3 and year 4, our major plan is to come up with a collab portal. Again, the reasoning is somewhat similar, that if we have tens and thousands of communities on Multiply with highly engaged members, then there are thousands of brands who would want to collab with these community builders and actually, multiply their revenue. So yeah, like the plan for the future is really to be community driven, bring community driven moderation. Like on WhatsApp, it's too difficult to have a lot of people because you're just too scared that people would start spamming the group or something like that. So the user segmentation is completely missing out. Now they might bring it, but again, it's a private messaging app. So they will not completely change the way they are. So yeah, I think the next 3 to 5 years are extremely important for us to kind of place Multiply as this community-driven platform, not just visibility. There are a lot of platforms so you can grow and build your audience on YouTube or on Instagram. That's a beautiful, amazing platforms to do that. But if you want to build a community and also earn and monetize the engagement, then that's what Multiply is going to help you do. And I really hope that a lot of community builders feel that they also need insights, make Multiply their everyday app. platform for connecting with their members and like their people.
Thank you so much for describing that. I think you've really found some clarity. Not that you didn't describe it very well the last time we spoke, but it definitely seems like you found a new level of clarity in, how Multiply is different from other social apps in the market. And obviously, as a community, like you're completely speaking to the reasons that we use social media. I am, wondering at this juncture, who do you kind of see as your persona or your ideal audience and demographic? Because I will say, like in the US, I think, as we've aged with social media, Facebook is considered for older people. I mean, I still use it, but it's just like, I know how my nieces and nephews see it. And then Instagram is kind of for them. They really like Snapchat and the instant messaging apps that are a little more anonymous. So, who do you think this would be for? I guess ideally.
I've kind of sprinkled this word called community builders, but I would kind of focus a little bit more on what kind of community builders we are looking for. Because, for example, even on Discord, you can run communities, right? But for us, what we are focusing towards first, the media and entertainment section. So people who are building communities around media and entertainment and events. So for example, if you are doing an event, but you would want to keep the people, like some people who find your event nice, to actually become a part of your community so that the next time you do an event, you don't have to put in the same effort. So yes, like we are niching down first into the media and entertainment industry and kind of also understanding what kind of challenges they face. Because I have worked in the media industry in the past and I know how unstructured it is. Fan engagement is completely scattered all over the place. And that's what we are starting with. Like we also did collaborations with film festivals because the product just makes sense for them. We host an internal calendar so you can get reminders. All your schedule is at one place. Your time sensitive announcements are at one place. Your photos are at one place. So it's like you don't really need 10 different apps for this. It's all in one. When we talk about geography and all, I think India is our first market. We are also even the number of downloads that we are getting dominated by India. It's also a big market, right? There are over 1 billion people out there. They are, a lot of them, I think 30 to 40% are Gen Zs, so they are very adaptable and flexible. So I think the way the next generation will see Multiply is basically a platform wherein you use it along with Instagram and Snapchat, and it'll find its own place for a fun part of things, not just because Discord is also for building, and even Slack, for example, but they just cater to different markets and different industries.
That completely makes sense. Yeah, it sounds like that you are overlay some of that social media and can adapt, but skew towards younger generation, which is great. And you mentioned this a little bit with kind of leading into that is thinking about competition, right? So obviously you said your biggest market is India, but I believe you said you were in many countries already. How has Multiply's adoption into the marketplace been given competition, right? Who do you see as your biggest competition? How do you see Multiply kind of differentiating themselves a bit?
Yeah, that's a very good question because initially when we went out, we thought our competitor is Eventbrite, which was a very wrong understanding. Over the period of time, honestly, our biggest competitor now, I wouldn't call them a competitor. Have you heard of OnlyFans? They kind of do something very similar. They let your monetize you. They let you monetize your audience. So while I don't generally bring OnlyFans in order, that's what our biggest competitor is right now, and that's why I feel very safe because we all know what OnlyFans belongs for. Even Patreon, for example, Patreon also does. You can monetize your community, but Patreon has had problems entering the Indian market because of the regulations. But we know how to surpass them. So I think Patreon and OnlyFans, if you're listening, I'm sorry. But yes, they are our biggest competitors right now. And they've both flourished in big markets like the US. And yeah, everybody knows about OnlyFans. And the only way I think we differentiate is because we are targeting a different market. And we're targeting a market which itself has a lot of potential. And the regulations which these platforms are not able to, kind of get over. We kind of just have our way, probably because I'm Indian, or there are just a couple of more factors around it. That's what I see. And I mean, when talking about the adoption till now, after India, US is our second largest market. And then there's Netherlands, of course, because I'm here, keep talking about it every time. And then there are a couple of, I do see Israel and even, I think, Japan. Some users, I have no idea who these people are, because our app is also fully English right now. We don't have different translations, like different versions. But I think with AI, that's not a big problem to have. OnlyFans and Patreon. And I think we kind of know that just because it's a different market, we should not have that much resistance, and we should be able to kind of capture it quickly. That's what we always say. But yeah, we'll see what happens in the future.
I think I can really understand the comparison. I definitely laughed at first when you said OnlyFans, but I do understand what you mean, because you're talking about a different kind of creator content. And aside from Patreon, we don't really have a solution like that in the US that I see. So I think it's really good that you've kind of assessed your similarities, to these other services and assessed their growth and kind of where you can fit in. I'm really excited to see what happens. I wanted to pivot though, because I was, thinking like now that you have all of this experience as a founder, like you've gone through possibly some of the hardest things that you will go through as a founder. Given your experience, what do you see as the most challenging stage looking back?
Oh, wow. Great question. Pricing is the hardest thing I have done for my product. And I think I've had sleepless nights because, and I wouldn't lie, I started pricing like we decided. I mean, first of all, we were not sure that we'll get to so many users so quickly. So that was a pressure. I mean, which was a good thing, we were the victim of our own success, and which is fine. But then my co-founder, he's like, you know what, like we need to price the product. And I was like, no, but like in Silicon Valley, everybody favors to kind of get a lot of users first, and then you kind of think about pricing. And he's like, yeah, but we're not going to do that because it's not 1990 and we don't have 20 years to wait to actually get to a million users. And it actually made a lot of sense to me because honestly, like, and I mean, this is where collaboration is important. A person like me, there's a part of fun in it, right? You're doing it because you're finding fun in it. So you're like, yeah, I'm like doing it for fun and we'll see where it goes. And then suddenly someone comes and says that, you know what, you need to put a price on your product, or you need to put a price on your baby. And I'm like, I don't know how much people are going to pay for this. And like, there's this notion also that each founder needs to have everything known from start. That doesn't happen. You kind of figure out so many things on the go. So coming back, I think pricing has been the biggest challenge for me. I still remember I started pricing the product somewhere in August or September-ish, yes. And I finished pricing this week, just 3 or 4 days back, because for some reasons I cannot disclose right now. I had to do like projections and all. And you cannot do projections if you don't know how much you're earning or what ways you're earning. So, I mean, again, it's not like I didn't know how we will earn. Of course, I knew that there are different ways, and thanks to working with different companies in the past, like Expedia and Google, you kind of understand that how can you bring money to the table. But when it comes to really putting it down and putting a number, it's scary. It will scare the shit out of you. That has been the biggest challenge. But again, the way to kind of get over it is iteration. Put something on the paper and start working towards it. Like, I don't know how many nights I've spent in researching pricing of different platforms which are like us, and thinking that, looks like it, but I don't think that I'm going to price it this way. Or like, there are so many different ways to even price the product. So it's just so many things. And then you need to kind of, it's again, diverge to converge. So you kind of first diverge and you go out and you look at all the different products, the way they've priced. But you always have this thing that the way people have done it is supposedly, maybe it is not the right way. You just never know. So you kind of always try to innovate things, but you somewhere down the line come back and you're like, you know what? Let's start simple and let's not like change the whole wheel, and let's see where it goes. So no, like I think it's just early Jan, I think 7th, 8th Jan, wherein I had to literally start from scratch every feature and see what brings value, because nobody's going to pay you for features. And I see a lot of platforms pricing their features But here is the thing: people are not going to pay you because they get an extra reminder one night, or they are able to match with other attendees going to the same event. These are all features on the app. They're going to give you money for the value you bring. It's called a second level benefit. It's not the feature, but it's what you do after they use the product. And that's what I wanted to focus on. Let's not just say that, oh, we have so many features, pay us $100. No, I mean, that doesn't make any sense. So I had to you had to change the narrative, and then you start talking about the value, and then everything becomes clear. It's a process.
I appreciate what you described about, the value is what you do beyond the product, like once they have it. I think that's really well said. And that goes hugely into customer retention. Talking about money, I don't think that I really asked you last time, and correct me if I'm wrong, how did you decide how you were going to go about funding? If you're going to just bootstrap this forever, what was that decision-making process like for you?
Initially, I wanted to raise funds. I've been through a process here as well. Initially, I wanted to raise funds. Even when I was at MIT attending the boot camp, I was like, I want to raise funds because I want to build a product, and this is my idea, blah, blah, blah. But here is the thing: fundraising is the most ego deflating process you'll go through. Your ego, you have to throw it in the garbage, and you just have to, at least that's what it was for me. So at MIT as well, and that's what I say, that you need to have the right people around you, because they will tell you the truth and they will not sugarcoat it for you. So I was very lucky. It was not me. MIT connected me with Bettina Hine. She's a member from the Shark Tank Switzerland. She was very honest to me. When I told her all my big plans, she said, nobody's going to give you money to build the product. It might come across as rude, but I took it seriously. And I was like, if that's the case, I'm going to build it myself. I'm not going to waste more time in waiting for someone, trying to go ahead and, beg people for money. If nobody's going to give me money, then I honestly don't really have a lot of options as well. So I came back and I took that in the right way. It was a constructive feedback for me, not like a critical thing to say. I mean, not like criticizing. I didn't see it like that. So I came back. I already had a job. So we didn't think about raising funds, also because we thought that it'll kind of waste a lot of time in raising funds. So we bootstrapped it. Till now, we haven't raised a penny. Completely bootstrapped it from inception, even marketing and all. It's all coming out of my own savings, and I'm completely proud of it. But now we are in that phase. I mean, that was the reason I'm creating all these 5-year projections and all, because I think that I have also left my job because I realized that if I'll never leave my job, multiply is never going to multiply. We'll probably just keep on dividing it. On a serious note, I think raising is on the plan. Raising funds is definitely on the roadmap. But I also want to build the product a little bit more. So even though we have already started looking out, kind of find the right investors who just don't give us money, but actually smart money. So they bring in with some kind of relationships of their own, or maybe someone who's already building a great community or something on those lines. So it's on the cards, but I'm really focusing on building the product a little bit more so I can get a higher valuation, because until you have revenue, at least in Europe, you don't get valued at the level you get. I mean, Silicon Valley valuations, they're just too contrast. These worlds are living two different lives. So yeah, like as we are looking for funding, we are also going to take our times, because and me and my co-founder have a very different view around it, but I've managed to convince him as well that let's build the product a little bit more and then lose equity, because there's no point having 5-6 different angel investors and then giving out so much equity, and then you're in a trap. Once you're there, there's no coming back. So yeah, hopefully in the next 6 months, we will have our first raise. But at least for the short term, 2 to 3 months, I don't see ourselves raising right now.
I mean, that's amazing that you've been able to successfully build this and scale it without any funding. So congratulations. That's awesome. I love to hear that. We're going to ask the question we ask at the end of every session here. So as we close out, I just want to thank you for being here and being a part of this today. The question that always gets asked is, what words of wisdom do you want to leave us with today? It can be a favorite quote, advice you got, something that you've learned along the way. What is the sentiment that you want to leave with the audience today? And what are those words of wisdom that you'd like to close out with?
I think I'll share 2 things which I've learned on my journey, and I think they've changed me as a person. And these 2 things are, 1, patience. I think patience is your biggest friend. Whenever you're being impulsive, whenever you see your hard work is not turning up into something, have patience and it will get you something. But don't stop, because the minute you stop, it'll stop multiplying. But if you put in your effort every day and not get impulsive, something is going to happen. And I think second one is iteration. Iteration is your friend. There's a saying here that books are not written, they are rewritten. And there's a lesson in here that don't think that what you come up with the first time is what you really are going to put out, because you yourself will not like it in 5 days. So it keep on iterating, and iteration is a way of building up for me. So you start on the scratch, but you keep on building up. And both these things combined, patience and iteration, I call it the process, will take you somewhere. So even if you're having days of no motivation, just do one task, one little task. Like it can be really putting something on the calendar for next day, but it will have an impact on your mind. And that's how our brains really, they take everything we do far too seriously. So just drive your mind into what you want to do. A quote, of course, I always love sharing great quotes. And the quote is that builders become builders by building. It's by Aristotle. And the lesson here is that you're not going to become a builder just by sitting here and looking at someone else building your product. The only way you can become a builder is by building, is by putting that first thing out there. Once you do that, you leave the rest to the universe and the next steps will come to you. You don't have to look for them.
Well, wise words and great quote too. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Anchala, for taking this time. We really appreciate you coming back and sharing your thoughts and your experience and teaching us today. Thank you so much. And is Multiply available in the US? Like if we wanted to download it and look at it?
Yes, it's live both on iOS and Android. It's called multiply.onl, which is the short form of online. Please feel free to download. And if you see a bug, I'm here. Please send it to me right away.
Definitely will do, and excited to give it a try. Thank you again. And thank you to everyone that joined us today too and contributed to the conversation. We always appreciate your perspective and energy. Matt and I and the team behind Founders Voyage feel very fortunate to be part of this community with you and for the opportunity to bring you these sorts of cooperative learning experiences each week. Anchala, if you have any nominations for future interview guests, we'd love to hear them. And if there's a way we can be supportive of you in your journey, please keep us posted.
For sure. If any of you is building a community, please get in touch, because I would love to get some things tested by you. So yes, just an open call.
Right, we may have to take you up on that. Well, thank you again. And thank you, everyone. Have a great day and evening ahead.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good one. Bye.
You've just finished another episode of Founders Voyage, the podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. The team at Founders Voyage wants to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We hope you enjoyed your time with us, and if so, please share this with someone else who might enjoy this podcast. You can also support us by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and by donating to our Patreon. Outro music today is Something for Nothing by Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band.